Are we live yet? I think we're live. What is up, freaks? It's your boy Marty Bent here.
How is there no way for us to tell on our side?
I was looking at restream here.
Uh,
Yeah, well, Car counted it down. There is like
I love
a
this new
lag though.
background. The black background's fucking fire.
I did too. The abyss above us up here. What is up, freaks? We are back again. Rabbit hole recap. January 13th, 2022. First month of 2022. It's almost halfway done. We're here again to talk about Bitcoin. I was just telling Matt before we went live that I'm very excited. I think there's going to be a lot of lively discussion this week. I'm feeling pretty jacked up considering a lot of the things that are going on as it pertains to the mining industry, particularly around the subcommittee that is being called in Congress that is questioning Bitcoin mining's validity considering its energy usage. There's a lot going on. Bitcoin legal defense funds, a lot of software updates. But first, we got to check in with Matt. Matt, you look like you're struggling over there. You're going to be able to keep up.
I'm just a little bit hungover from amazing Nash Bitcoiner meetup last night. Always love kicking it with Bitcoiners in person, offline, with discussions that are not recorded and broadcast after the fact. And then I told Marty I told Marty and Carr I spent the last hour and a half assembling my new desk. So we're getting there, slow and steady.
Hey, as long as you're getting there, as long as you're making progress, one little bit at a time, pun intended. Let's just jump right into it. Let's jump right into it. We'll go to Clark's dashboard. The current price of Bitcoin is 42,690 bucks. We are at block height 718,520. Nice even block height there. We had a difficulty adjustment between right now and the last time we recorded last Thursday. It happened, I believe, on Saturday or Sunday. It was an upward adjustment of 0.4%. Blocks were coming in 9 minutes and 37 seconds on average. As of right now, we are due to have another difficulty target in 1,192 blocks, which is estimated, according to Clark's dashboard, to be January 21st, 2022. So that would be next Friday. If we stay at this pace, it's going to be an upward adjustment of 3.9%. It's because blocks are coming in at 9 minutes and 37 seconds on average. Whirlpool unspent capacity is, above 4,400. 4,404.87. If I believe last week when we met, it was 4,380. Or wasn't it in the 3,000s last week? Or 4,000? No, it was 4,389. So
I can't read anything.
Matt just admitted he can't read, freaks.
I still got I have like a big screen. I have a big monitor in a box sitting right next to me, and I have like the little laptop monitor like out of reach, far away. So I'm gonna have to rely on you.
I can do the reading. I can do the reading for the freaks and for you out there. Big week. I think it's a big week. I mean, we still have this price consolidation. We had like a mini pump. It's hilarious how it'll go down to 39 and people will be freaking out. Then it pumps a little bit to like 42, 43. People are like, we're going back up. But it seems like Bitcoin is being very reflexive too. And correlating very tightly with traditional markets. We've had Jerome Powell and crew, the Fed, out and about, posturing.
There's no way the Fed's going to fucking raise rates substantially. I can't believe people actually believe that shit.
Well, people don't believe it. That's the thing.
People do. I mean, the markets show that people believe it. I mean, it's not just Bitcoin that dumped. Like all assets dumped. Stocks dumped.
Yeah.
Significantly, right? So like obviously it's not priced, like it's being priced in as if rates are going to go up, and markets will crash as a result. But that it just does not seem like that's going to happen leading into midterms. We have so much fucking debt on our balance sheet. They're trapped in a fucking hole.
Yeah. Well, that's the whole end game that the Fed has arrived at. They just have to play this public posturing game where we're going to raise. We have to say that to make it seem like we're actively trying to manage and keep as far away from the economy as possible. But what is inevitable due to the amount of money that's been printed and the amount of debt that's been accrued, is that they always need to keep rates low, keep printing more money.
Yeah. For like it's a new paradigm. We're just going to, rates will be low and negative until hyper Bitcoinization happens. You know what else is interesting, Marty? I had a friend text me yesterday, and the last time he texted me was a year ago, because he texted me through Signal. The last time he messaged me on Signal was a year ago. Super hyped about the Bitcoin price passing 33K, and I just think that's like crazy. It's crazy looking back at how 33K felt a year ago, and now we're at whatever we're at, 43K a year later, and people are like, the end is nigh, Bitcoin is dead.
That is exactly what I wrote about in the Bent. When I'm looking it up now, I believe. Yeah, it was the 10th, so 13th, 12th.
Like I would love to
Monday.
listen to Rabbit Hole Recap this a year ago today. I wonder.
We need to start clipping old ones. Car, I'm putting this in the TFTC chat.
Like Caps Odell was about to come out. Everyone's so bullish.
Caps Odell. What a difference a year makes. I don't know why this.
I think Caps might have to come out again soon.
Why do you think that?
I just feel the Caps beating on the inside of my head. They want to be let loose.
We need them. I miss Caps Odell on Twitter. I mean, you're at Odell all caps. I think if you're going to stay true to the character that you've built around Caps Odell, he needs to be let out of the cage every once in a while. Scroll down a little bit, Car. Speaking of the right here, you start here. So this is the Fear and Greed Index, which tries to measure the amount of fear or greed within Bitcoin markets at any given point in time. This was January of last year, January 11th, 2021.
Oh, I thought this was great.
The greed index was at 90, and at the same price was around $40,000, $41,000. And earlier this week, go down, Carva, January.
No, wasn't
8th.
it even less price? Wasn't it like 30? That's what I thought. It was like 33K or whatever a year ago.
I went and checked. Yeah, I mean, it went up pretty quickly from 33 to 40.
But that's the funny part, right? Is like it was extreme greed. It's extreme fear at $10,000 higher.
Yeah, exactly. So we have extreme fear now. The fear index is at 10, whereas last year the greed index was reading 90. You have fear on one side of the spectrum and fear on the other side. So when we were blowing through that, everybody was being greedy, and now that we're hovering around $40,000, everybody's freaking the fuck out. Like, oh my gosh, is Bitcoin going to die? And like I said in the newsletter on Monday, this is what normalization looks like of Bitcoin just seeping itself into the culture. People,
and it's like, yeah,
41
price anchoring, right? It's
exactly.
Like we get anchored on a price, and then sellers get exhausted, and then we move forward. Wow, Smash Odell's in the comments. Let's fucking go.
Would you smash Odell?
That's one I haven't seen in a while, that account. So cheers. We get like anchored to the price, right? And then it gets normalized and we go up. But really the answer to Marty's question is yes, Bitcoin is dead. We're going to zero.
Yes. Everybody get out while you can. Hit the hay. Just call it a night. It's all over. It's at $40,000. The government's coming after it. Elizabeth Warren's on a war path. It's
with
just
Kroger.
With Kroger. Yeah, we'll get into that. That ties into the
Elizabeth
inflation
Warren's
stuff.
She's too preoccupied with Kroger. Bitcoin will be fine.
Yes, Bitcoin will be fine. So another thing, like, tying up like the normalization and the price anchors thing, that's actually the price chart with the most signal. Is you look at a Bitcoin chart and you look at the yearly lows year on year. What you'll find consistently over time, the low per year within a calendar year of trading has consistently gotten higher and higher. So you've just set high water marks at these troughs and these bull and bear cycles of Bitcoin. They just happen really
you always
fast.
get good engagement on that tweet when you send that one out.
Yeah, let me look that up real quick. But No, I mean it's hilarious how like Matt said a year ago people were, oh my god, we're going to 33, we're going to get 200K by conference day, and now uh, we're reapproaching that from the other side, and not even really
200K
reapproaching
by
it.
conference day still in play.
Yeah, the 200 week moving average, I believe I saw today, is only at like $18,000. So we're still above that metric as well. And if you're looking to measure Bitcoin as a good long term store of value, I think looking at that 200 week moving average metric is a good way to do it. That line's consistently up and to the right at a
You
very.
want to pull up the Par, you want to pull up the type in Meyer multiple by Bitcoin worldwide and pull up that Meyer multiple chart because the Meyer multiple is basically where Bitcoin sits on the 200-day moving average. This chart's interesting. I looked at it the other day. You're going to scroll down to the actual chart. Yeah, that's pretty interesting chart. I'm not really a chart guy, but
You're a big Trace Mayer guy, though. So this is,
not really a Trace Mayer guy either. I agree that the 200-day moving average is an interesting metric. And
I
so
was
this is showing how high Bitcoin is in comparison to the 200-day moving average.
I,
Trace has his line there where he says, what is it, like 2.4 or whatever? If you buy under 2.4, it's a good time to buy, where that line is. But it's interesting. Look at all the peaks, the recent peaks. They almost always happen around that line.
right the median, which is or the
Yeah.
average, excuse me, which is around like 2.4, like Matt said. So what we're
Which
looking at is
makes me just feel like people are trading on that.
yeah, we're looking at the Mayer multiple right now on buybitcoinworldwide.com. It's currently sitting at 0.88, which is very much below average.
From this point forward, we're just going to call this the Marty multiple to
The Marty multiple.
Trace has become a disgrace.
Well, hey, he did create the Mayer multiple. I'm not. I would feel dirty taking it
The
from him.
Marty multiple is pegged at 69. Very cheers, BTC pins.
Yes, nice. Yes, it is.
Nice.
I can't find the 200 week moving average chart right now. I forget who was tweeting about that today, but I saw that floating around out there. But it's a good one to look at if you're again like everybody trying to basically define Bitcoin and using short-term price volatility to thrust definitions on the type of asset that Bitcoin is a fool's errand. If you ask your Uncle Marty, and it's just like not wise. Again, Bitcoin's like a brand new asset. I hate comparing it. Like I said this weeks ago, digital gold. Yes, it's easy to for people to create metaphors and analogies to compare things to, but the reality of the nature of Bitcoin, its digital nature, its distributed nature, puts it in a whole nother class. And these comparisons and analogies are nothing more than interesting mental frameworks to help people understand. They don't equate to full understanding by just being able to repeat them. I would argue that was a weird rant I just went on, but
Stay humble and stack sats, freaks.
what else do we got going on here in the world? I mean, we mentioned it in the beginning, or with you bringing up Elizabeth Warren yelling at Kroger for increasing prices. They're price gouging, which is again a very dangerous sign. We said this a few weeks ago when Jen Psaki was speaking on behalf of President Biden, saying that it was greedy industrialists in the meatpacking sector of the economy, particularly, that were leading to price increases. We've had Elizabeth Warren coming out, getting in fights with Kroger, which is a for those who are unaware, a shopping market,
A grocery chain.
a grocery chain in the northeast
But they're
section of
not
the
even like
country.
the top grocery chain. Like their market share isn't that high. Like someone posted the market share chart of the different grocery chains.
Yeah, I think Kroger's very native to the Northeast. I don't think it gets
I
too
think they're
far.
like 9% or something of the grocery market, but they were like, these grocery giant. But Elizabeth was like, these grocery giants are like Kroger, and she called out Kroger specifically. Do you think she like went to Kroger that day and was just
Yeah,
like pissed off that meat was expensive?
yeah, I think Kroger is native to where she's from. Is she Connecticut or New York? Where is she from? Not probably
She's
not.
definitely not New York. I think she's Boston. Yeah, she's
She's
Mass.
Massachusetts. Yeah, definitely
Yeah.
up in Massachusetts.
I have a buddy from Mass that a college buddy from Mass that admitted to voting for her, like I don't know, like 6 years ago or something. And literally every single time she said something, he's like tried to disown it since then. But every time she said something, we just post it in the group chat and tag him. You voted for this.
You voted. Well, now she's coming after Bitcoin mining. We'll get to that. But with the Kroger comment, she's trying to thrust the problem of inflation on, again, these greedy industrialists like others in DC, particularly the Biden administration, have tried to do in recent weeks. And it's funny that this beef that she's starting with this innocent grocery chain is coinciding with U.S. producer price inflation jumping 9.7% in December. So that data point came out today. That's the highest year-on-year increase on record, which is, again, this is producer price inflation. So prices for people that are putting together raw materials and ingredients to give end products that then get sold. So the prices are going up for the producer. They're eventually going to get passed on to the consumer. So this is a leading indicator of even higher inflation. The fact that it's happening at the producer level around 10%, which is pretty fucked up.
We have someone in the comments saying, I've not verified this at all because my computer's all the way over there and I can't reach it. That there's 16, that Kroger owns 16 plus different grocery store brands around the U.S. I don't know. I'm not a grocery store specialist, but I also don't. If you think Kroger is overcharging, go to another store.
Yeah,
That's what the market is supposed to do.
Yeah. Optionality. We're big on optionality. Seems like they're trying to take it away though. Every day, you gotta fight for it, especially here in the United States. I'm too lazy to buy beef directly from rancher. Now I'm crying about the price at Kroger.
I actually grilled. I had a bunch of people over.
I don't really care about Kroger.
A couple days ago, and we grilled beef from 2 local butchers. So go to your local butcher when you need meat, or a local rancher if you have a rancher.
Go shake your rancher's hand. Highly recommend it. The beef's better. You get more fulfillment, and you get to, again, shake hands and look at the person who's actually raising, slaughtering, and packing the meat that you and your family are enjoying. You got to get a reconnection with this part of life. That's a part of humanity right now. That's why we're living in this clown world. So many individuals out there are completely disconnected from reality and hard work and uncomfortable truths. A lot of people who just like to eat food at the grocery store don't want to think what's happening down chain.
Marty, you still own that cow?
I do. It should be up for slaughter at the end of the year.
Are you ever going to take custody of the cow?
Yeah, I'm going to take custody of
the meat,
of the cut up parts of the cow after it's lived a long and happy life and has been slaughtered to feed me.
I think it'd be hilarious if in your other studio where you're in your backyard, if you just had like the cow like grazing behind you as you're recording.
That would be cool. I don't know if the wife would be happy with that due to the smell, the upkeep, start eating the bamboo. It's just a lot to go. Maybe when we get like a bigger place, we'll have a ranch. We'll have multiple cattle.
Yeah.
I hope to one day have multiple cattle.
It's not a real citadel if you don't have cows on it.
Yeah, you need to have cows grazing around, natural gas in the background, mining Bitcoin, terror guns. It's all going to happen. It's going to be a beautiful, incredible cypherpunk future. But getting back to inflation, which is helping to drive us there because people are looking for alternatives, and the only viable alternatives to escaping the monetary policy that most of the world is subjected to right now, which is dovish Keynesian monetary policy. Like Bitcoin is the only thing. So this 9.7% jump in producer price inflation year on year is essentially a tax that's been levied, almost a 10% tax on producers that they did not opt in for, they did not vote for, they have no control over. They can't go to Jerome Powell and say, stop doing this. He does not have to listen to them. And I tweeted out right before we went live here, like an hour ago, like, you literally don't have any power within this U.S. dollar system or a similar fiat currency system that's being run around the world. The only power that you do have is opting into a better monetary system built on sound money in the digital era, the digital age, which is Bitcoin. So we had 9.7% producer price inflation in the U.S. today, and it also came out Argentina rolling 12-month inflation is 50.9% in December.
It's just transitory.
It is transitory. So it's not only happening here in the U.S., Argentina, which has been plagued by hyperinflationary crises multiple times in our lifetimes. I'm only 30.
Many times.
It seems to be going through
And
yet
they have
another
strict
one.
capital controls too. The one thing is like, yeah, like Bitcoin does provide us an escape hatch because we can opt out of the fiat system and move to Bitcoin. Um, to a degree, so do other hard assets. Less hard than Bitcoin. Stuff like real estate, stocks, gold. I'm like very happy. I'm obviously very grateful we have Bitcoin to go to instead of those. I'd rather go to Bitcoin. But in Argentina is a perfect example where they have strict capital controls, so they make it as difficult as possible to get into any of those assets. Whether that's and in this case, it is actually easier to get into Bitcoin in Argentina than to get a lot of times than to get into foreign equities or real estate stuff like that. Like the access is significantly better.
Yes. Matt Alborg at usefultulips.org, he's written a great piece on Argentinian money changers. They're black market money changers. I forget what they're called. I want to say favelas, but I know that's like an area of a city, like in Rio.
Favelas.
Favelas? It's favelas. It's not.
There's no L. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's not the money changers. That's the slums in Rio.
Yeah. Whatever. There's a great article on usefultulips.org about this particular black market. And yeah, they're saying it's 50.9% inflation. If you really want to get the real inflation rate, you'd probably want to go to one of those money changers and see what the cost of money is there, because that'll give you a more accurate reading there. So it's and strike just opened up in Argentina too. We have that on the list, I guess, while we have Argentina on the mind.
I mean, I would say, in a Bitcoin world, if you want to really know the value of something, the value of the currency is how much you can get, actual Bitcoin for and get it, in a self-custodial way.
Yeah.
That's the value of money.
Yeah.
Is basically its price in Bitcoin, because that's the closest thing you have to a free market.
Yeah. Any Argentine listeners out there have any stories from the ground on what's going on with the inflation, particularly, please reach out. I mean, how many times can one country go through? I mean, I think there's a third or fourth in the last 30 years. Like, how do you even try to create an economy over generations, just having that happen to you? Like, in one generation, it's happened 3 or 4 times. But it does seem like Argentina is a pretty resilient country. I mean, they still have a very vibrant culture, and
In spite of their shitty money.
yeah, exactly. Imagine what they would do if they had adopted good money.
Soon.
Yeah.
It's good to see Strike. So Strike was available in the United States, El Salvador. Argentina is their third market. Obviously, the fact that Argentina has constant hyperinflation issues mixed with that remittances is a massive market there. People sending money from the United States back to Argentina, from other places back to Argentina, make it an ideal fit for something like Strike. It's interesting with this rollout. There's no banking relationship. They don't have a bank on that side, and what's happening is you're either going to, so they're using Tether for the U.S. dollar portion, which I believe is similar to how they did in El Salvador. And basically the ways to onboard or offboard into the app is either remittances, someone sending you Bitcoin from abroad, or they have all these cash points. They have all these places where you pay cash, and you're able to load that up either as Tether or Bitcoin to Strike, and vice versa.
So Tether getting more ingrained in the app there. I mean, that's the way to route around the bank account issue. Right?
Yeah, I mean, look, there is a lot of, obviously Tether has third party risk. I mean, you have to trust Tether. Obviously, Strike has custodial risk if you're holding things on Strike, so you have to trust Strike. So if you're holding Tether on Strike, you have double custodial risk because you're trusting Tether and Strike. But if you have double digit inflation and you want access to basically a dollar asset, then that could be a risk that you're willing to take, right?
Yes, it certainly can be, and especially if you're just using it for a few minutes, you just need it literally for the rails of moving money because you're not able to via Swift or the traditional rails.
In Argentina,
It's
you can't even send a $200 Visa payment because the capital controls are so strict on U.S. dollar access.
Yes, they're not allowed to take
Uh,
more than 200 out of the bank at once, like per week.
yeah, it's
Right?
fucking crazy. Like the capital controls are extremely fucking strict. So now Argentinians can either use Bitcoin and they can hold their wealth in Bitcoin, right? I believe Sats are my stable coin. I know they're not for everyone yet in this adoption phase, but they could. Or they can hold a US dollar type asset in respect of Tether, and they can instantly transfer that around the world at low cost using Lightning. So they have choices, and depending on their situation, they will make the choice that fits their threat model and life situation the best for them.
What are your thoughts on the potential emergence of synthetic stablecoins on Lightning?
I mean, I'm involved with the bounty program that HRF and Strike put out, which is a Bitcoin to anyone who can come up with something like that doesn't require a token. That is essentially a a open market protocol where people can go uh, long Bitcoin, or I've reversely basically just pegged themselves to Bitcoin. Um, I think that's a very interesting concept. It'd be nice because it's all Bitcoin based, and it can be an open protocol, so the market could get very liquid, rather than having something like Tether, where it's literally just a centrally controlled company that's breaking U.S. laws, that is holding billions of dollars apparently that you can't verify that is actually backing the whole system. It's long been a ticking time bomb. It's amazing to me that they've lasted this long. So obviously, in a world without Tether blows up. We need an alternative. And before anyone says, USDC or one of these, super regulated American-based stablecoins is an answer. Uh, I mean, they are. I mean, even Tether has some blacklisting they do, but like the amount of KYC requirements and stuff that's going to happen on these regulated stablecoins is going to make it completely impractical for anyone who's trying to get around capital controls, like is the case in Argentina.
Yeah, they're not gonna be able to send U.S. like stable coins created by U.S. like Circle or Coinbase. They're not gonna be able to be using those because you'll have to you'll have to get the okay from Coinbase and Circle, and they
Um,
probably don't want to get involved with these sanctions. And that's another thing. Noting that like Circle, they're doing like a big advertising push in airports. I don't know if you've realized this recently, but in Newark and Austin, both ends of my flight back to and from home over the holidays, Circle was like just blaring advertisements in the airport, which I thought was interesting
what was it for USDC? They were doing it.
for USDC and Bitcoin. Yeah.
We have someone in the comments, X Frog, saying, asking, they're sending Tether over Lightning. I thought Argentina Strike is using the ERC20 Ethereum token version of Tether. I'm not absolutely sure if they're using the Ethereum token version. I think they are. they're not sending Tether, period. The users got Tether as a balance for their USD balance. And similar to how Strike is working in America and El Salvador, when you send that USD balance to someone else, what is happening is the dollars are being sold for Bitcoin instantly, and Bitcoin is being sent over the Lightning Network. And then on the receiver side, if the receiver is a Strike user, that Bitcoin is then immediately being sold for US dollars. And if that is in um, if that is in America, that's like fiat in a bank account. And if that's in El Salvador or Argentina, my understanding is then it gets converted into Tether. I don't know what the decision making was for why they chose to use the Ethereum token version of Tether. There's obviously a liquid version of Tether. There is a Tron version of Tether. Tether's on a bunch of different fucking chains. The original Tether was on Counterparty. I don't know if people still use that one, like the Omni token version of Tether. But my first thought when I'm thinking about that is maybe it has something to do with those cash points and just the fact that Ethereum Tether is probably the most supported Tether. If you want to convert, cash into Tether to fund the Strike app or vice versa.
I thought Tron was more supported. Tron Tether.
Tron has more volume.
Yeah.
Because the traders like it because the fees are lower.
And that begs the question too, because ETH gas fees will be high. I don't think we can confirm that it is ETH. Like it could be liquid, but Matt,
it's definitely not liquid.
It could be.
No, I mean, look. Let's be honest, right? Like the overwhelming majority of people that are using this are just it's a custodial U.S. dollar balance.
Yeah.
Right. Like it's when people use Strike, they're not withdrawing their dollars really. Most of the time they're not. They're just leaving it as a US dollar balance in the Strike app and using it as a neobank. Does that have custodial risk? Yeah. Do you also trust Tether? Yeah. But there's no trust in Ethereum in that situation because at the end of the day, it's a centralized database.
Yeah.
So what chain you use Tether on is both irrelevant to the adoption of that chain and is irrelevant to the security model of the Tether itself.
Very good point. They're just rails.
There's no way to like self-custody Tether. No. Like you're always trusting Tether, the corporation, to not blacklist you or take your money or exit scam. So there's this idea that you could ever hold cold storage or self-custody Tether is bullshit.
Know the risk, freaks. If you're getting into it, we do know there is utility for stable coins in certain parts of the world because people do not want to stomach the short-term price volatility and need a stable savings vehicle. We would say stats are very stable. However, people do need to buy things and interact in the daily economy where they live. But hopefully there's synthetic stable coins on Lightning Network that will come to market. Louis Liu was teasing that today. I'm very interested to see how they get brought to the Lightning Network specifically. Is it going to be a contract for difference, discrete log contract that you just have a bunch of those that scale up and get enough liquidity that they can be parceled and used as stable coins? We shall see.
That seems the most likely. Like some kind of contract for difference system.
Yeah.
But look, all this stuff is like it's great. Like I completely understand why people, and we've talked about this in the past that, as fiat starts to die around the world, the weaker currencies are going to die first, and people are going to try and escape to the currencies that are the fiat currencies that are felt to be stronger. So in the near term, you're going to see a lot of people try and escape to the US dollar. The US dollar will fail last because it's a global reserve currency, or it'll be one of the last to fail. Like it'll be like the US dollar, yuan, the Chinese yuan. But ultimately, this is a short-term thing, right? Because long-term, you don't need. Why would you peg your Bitcoin to shitty money?
Exactly.
You just hold Bitcoin.
This is just I think this is something we've been clear about throughout the history of the show when we brought up stable coins, and it have not even conceded, just recognize that they do have utility for certain parts of the world. It's just transitionary bridge use case as we transition to a Bitcoin standard. slowly but surely over time. And it may happen faster, like you said. The weak currencies are going to die first. We're seeing with the Argentine peso, 50 the lira in Turkey, whatever currency Kazakhstan is using.
This was a crazy Wall Street Journal headline. Turks pile into Bitcoin and Tether to escape plunging lira.
Yeah, this is in the Wall Street Journal. I wasn't able to read it until you provided us with the archive link. But it's happening. Obviously, Erdogan, so let's get into it. The weak currencies are gonna fall first. We're seeing with the lira. We're seeing with Argentine peso. And why are they failing as miserably and terribly as they are at this current moment? And similarly, in Argentina and Turkey, you have government regimes, whatever you want to call them. In Turkey, you have Erdogan. In Argentina, I don't even know who's president there now, but they've, like Matt mentioned earlier, maybe. The point is they're using very granular top-down control of the money markets, particularly trying to control them and finding that they have no control, because when you try to exert that much control on these systems, it drives people to lose confidence in them. Because why do you need to exert that much control if you had control in the first place? It's sort of a cascading doom loop, if you will. Like 50% in Argentina, producer price index close to 10%. I mean, getting close to double digits in certain parts of the U.S. economy. How much better than Argentina is that? So what I'm trying to get to is the U.S. dollar will be less,
but still,
the U.S. dollar will be last to fall. But it's one thing I worry about, especially in the hyper-connected, hyper-communicative world that we live in today, and monetary inflation, particularly high to hyperinflationary events, again, are two parts. You have the mechanical part of it, creating more monetary units that dilute the individual share of the whole pie if they're not acquiring a commensurate amount of units with the percentage that the supply is being expanded by. That's one part of it, which most people just focus on, is price inflation and as compared to the amount of money that's been printed. But the second part that people don't talk about enough is the social aspect of it. Like once people start to lose confidence and you have this weird feedback loop, does it happen quicker? The long-winded, winding road I'm taking right now is just to ask that question, even though the lira in Turkey, the peso in Argentina are blowing up spectacularly right now, and we believe that people will find solace in the dollar. Like the dollar's it's doing better on a relative basis, but on an absolute basis, it's not doing so hot itself as well. And so
the dollar's a shitcoin.
They're all shitcoins. They're all cuckbucks. And it's like, how bad could this get? Like you said, the Fed's never gonna hike rates. That's becoming glaringly obvious.
Well, they might hike rates, just not substantially.
50 bips.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, we should make that clear, because when they barely hike it, people are gonna be like, "Oh, I knew it. I told you they were gonna hike it."
Yeah, but it's gonna be they'll hike it, and if they do hike it, they're gonna have to do
run to negative.
They're gonna have to do an intra-meeting intervention, because the markets are gonna shit their pants, and then they'll capitulate again. Maybe that's when you start having the psychological aspect kick more into gear, is if they do hike. So that's the question. I think the threat of hiking is a better strategy, and you just never do it.
Yeah, but how many times can you bluff before people fucking start to figure it out?
Well, so we have the game theory of monetary economics, which is you either overtly default. If you're a country printing all these treasuries, you have two ways out. You either overtly default, say, hey, we're not going to be able to pay this back, which is politically untenable, or you inflate away the currency. So obviously, we've chosen to inflate away the currency, and then within that, let's inflate away the currency. Then you have another game theory. What's better, this bluff and never hike, or do we just hike and pull back, at which point it becomes more than glaringly obvious that you can never hike. And so then you have the feedback loop there. Or if you bluff and bluff and bluff, no, we just 2 more weeks. Can you extend it even further going forward with that strategy. I would argue the bluffing is probably a wiser of the two strategies.
The emperor has no clothes.
No, buy Bitcoin.
I'm not that message that car just pulled up from Nicholas or whatever. I didn't hear about that. Did you hear about that? The three largest German banks want to offer a Bitcoin service.
I mean,
Yeah,
yeah,
this one.
I saw the headline, but who
That
knows?
one.
Who knows how legit it is?
If it's custodial, it's bullshit. If you can't withdraw, it's absolute bullshit.
Yeah, the Germans don't seem too keen on freedom these days.
It's still, I guess, it's a solid boost for public appeal or public opinion or something.
Yeah,
But I didn't hear about that story. So
yeah. I mean, there was like you always have to dive deep into these stories because, like yesterday, Bitcoin Magazine tweeted out like Arkansas is offering individuals, particularly in the tech sector, that move to Arkansas to work remotely from Arkansas. They'll appease them with $10,000 of Bitcoin. I was like, all right, is this actually happening? I wanted to write about it, and then I went and found out. It's just like one little county council in Northwest Arkansas is offering people $10,000 to come move there.
in Bitcoin or not in Bitcoin?
Cash or Bitcoin. And then on top of that, they're like offering bikes.
That's pretty cool.
Scooters.
I didn't know about that.
Yeah. I went in Arkansas, Northwest Arkansas. If you want to move to Northwest Arkansas, and you want to like work remotely in a beautiful area, this is how they're pitching it. This Northwestern Arkansas Council, they have a budget, I believe, of up to $1 million to disperse $10,000 worth of Bitcoin or cash to individuals in the tech sector. So if you're looking for a good way to stack, you're looking for some beautiful scenery, Northwest Arkansas will have you. They'll give you $10,000 worth of Bitcoin as well.
Why the bike?
Because apparently they have the most bike trails.
I wonder if they got the bike sponsored.
Yeah, I think it might be like a bike voucher, but yeah, no, it's pretty.
It's like
good.
hard to get a bike nowadays. There's bike shortages everywhere, so
yeah,
could be worth it.
It looked beautiful. The area, what Northwest Arkansas? What is that border?
No idea.
Nebraska? I don't know. Not even gonna try.
You did just try, but
I did try. That was me taking back my try. But this highlights.
Pull up a map of the United States.
This highlights the sovereign individual thesis. Like, and it's weird with this particular thing. Like, it seems like Bitcoin's just trying to attract a certain person. I don't think they actually really care about Bitcoin. He's like, yeah, we'll give you Bitcoin if you're in the tech sector. We think tech people like that. But again, everything works in Bitcoin's benefit. Free press. Matt can't read anything, so I have to read all the list.
What's next?
Legal Defense Fund. This was very cool to see.
This is fucking awesome.
Come through the Bitcoin dev mailing list. Jack Dorsey, Jack at squareup.com, went to the Bitcoin dev mailing list to announce that himself, Alex Morkos, and Martin White have created the Bitcoin Legal Defense Fund, which they intend to use to defend Bitcoin contributors in the space who are being sued in relation to their work in and around Bitcoin.
Mostly from Craig Wright.
Yeah, mostly from Craig Wright. So it's basically
who's a fraud.
If you very prominent individuals in the space, Alex Morkos, Free Freaks, who are unaware, is one of the gentlemen behind Chain Code Labs in New York City, who've been doing incredible things to educate people, Bitcoin developers specifically, and then on top of that,
dude's been spending millions of dollars and tons of time out of his own pocket to support Bitcoin development for, when did Chain Code come out? Like 5 years ago now? 4 years ago?
Quite a while. I mean, even before that,
respect.
I think he was sponsoring the BitDevs meetup in New York, himself and Suhas. But yeah, there's some of the quiet, unsung heroes of Bitcoin in the background that are doing incredible things to make sure developers can do what they do best. Here, as you can see in the second or third paragraph, the First activities will be to take over coordination of the existing defense of the tulip trading lawsuit against certain developers alleging breach of fiduciary duty and to provide the source of funding for outside
Which is the
counsel.
CSW lawsuit.
Yeah, so these are all the troll lawsuits where CSW is suing people for hosting the Bitcoin white paper. So it's good to see people stepping up and saying, hey, we'll front the bill on all this litigious activities that you guys are being subjected to. So
It's more than just hosting the white paper. I mean, he's going after devs for developing Bitcoin,
that as well.
saying that they're responsible for him not having his rightful coin.
I mean, if you have your rightful coin, Craig, just use your private key, man. Sign the damn message. Move the damn UTXO. If you can't do that, and
You're a fraud.
Yeah, you're a fraud. Put plainly. We talked about Strike getting into Argentina. We talked about that for a bit. SimpleLightning.com. What is a bolt? What is a blip? This is a great piece.
This is Kiara Bickers and Vivek's new project, where they're basically, the idea is it's going to be a newsletter that tries to explain complicated aspects of Lightning in a more user-friendly, approachable way. And the target audience is mostly developers and contributors, but I think it could be helpful for all Bitcoiners, especially if you're trying to focus on Lightning and if you have an interest in Lightning. So definitely go check out, what is it, simplelightning.com?
Yes.
And subscribe.
No, I'm happy you put this on the list this week because I didn't even realize what a bolt was until I had a conversation last week with somebody working on the Lightning Network. A bolt is what a BIP is at the Bitcoin core or the Bitcoin consensus layer. So it's a basis of Lightning technology. So if you want to add, you have an idea to add an improvement to the Lightning Network specifically, it is called a bolt. And then it gets numbered. Bolt 12 has been talked about on this podcast a lot recently. There's many other bolts as well, Bolt 9. Obviously, there's many BIPs, but what I learned, the conversation I had last Friday, was that there was a lot of contention around this. A lot of people, Luke Dasher mainly, thought the Lightning Network stuff should just be BIPs as well. Did you know about that sort of discussion going on?
They actually go into it a little bit in this piece. I think they have a whole section of bolts versus BIPs.
Yeah, how's a bolt different than a BIP? Bolts and BIPs are forms of development proposals, and Lightning proposal only becomes a bolt after two independent implementations have successfully tested interoperability. In Bitcoin, a BIP is more of an opt-in proposal standard for implementers to ensure interoperability. Yeah, so this is interesting. Where Lightning, you have many popular implementations, and creating interoperable consensus between them is very important. You do have that at the base layer too, but Bitcoin Core is by far the most dominant implementation of Bitcoin. Obviously, you have libBitcoin, Knots, and others as well. But I think the way that Lightning Network is very interactive, it creates interoperability being a very high threshold for all these improvements.
I mean, there's massive differences between Bitcoin and Lightning, right? And Bitcoin is like a broadcast system that is consensus critical, that all participants on the Bitcoin network are able to agree on a certain amount of consensus on certain consensus rules. Otherwise, there will be forks in the chain, and people will be operating on different chains. And then Lightning is a link-to-link protocol. It's you have channels open with other peers that you are choosing to have those channels with. So we have all these implementations that are all doing their own kind of take on Lightning, and it's ideal to have them be compatible with each other so that you have this larger Lightning network. But at the end of the day, I wouldn't say it's necessarily mission critical, right? With Bitcoin, it's consensus is key.
Yeah. No, it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out. Apparently there's a a lot of conversations about specifications too. I think that's frustrating. There's frustration between some of the implementations because specifications aren't being aren't being published, so that some teams can build certain things they want to build, and there's it's this weird dynamic between the multiple implementations right now. L&D is the most popular. You have C Lightning,
LDK.
LDK now, which
I'm
on
assuming.
on
Yeah,
that note, yeah, Cash App.
we didn't put that on the list.
We didn't, so let's talk about it. I mean, Cash App's rolling out Lightning Network payments. I have access to it. Have
I
paid.
think they're using LDK for that on their side.
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean,
Yeah.
Spiral BTC has been working on LGK for years. It's within the Block family of businesses.
I don't have it in my app yet. Do they accept Lightning deposits or only withdrawals?
I think it's only withdrawals.
No deposits yet?
Not to my knowledge. Let me check real quick.
Which is interesting because you'd think deposits would be.
No,
I guess deposits are a bigger issue in terms of compliance.
Yeah, with channel balancing and stuff like
No,
that.
not even channel balancing. Just like they don't necessarily know who the sender is. While when you're withdrawing, they know all the invoice data. They know what node you're sending to. They have a lot of information there. The real question is when they add native Lightning support to their millions of Square point of sales that you see everywhere. Like I was,
Yeah, that's.
like
I
it'd
mean,
be so easy for them to add that at this point.
yeah, that's what Carr has up on the screen in the newsletter, really just explaining or articulating just that as well. I mean, I think everybody's waiting for that. When does Square turn on the ability for merchants to either accept Bitcoin or automatically take a portion of revenues and convert that to Bitcoin automatically? I think the capability to implement that is there. I mean, at the coffee shop that I go to every once in a while when I'm craving nice coffee, their POS system within the last 3 months, or maybe I'm just noticing it within the last 3 months, has flashed a Cash App QR code that I can easily scan and pay.
Yeah.
And I've used that.
Yeah, so they already have the Cash App QR code. So that means that if you have Bitcoin and Cash App, you can pay in a custodial way with Bitcoin, basically. If that's you selling immediately.
Well,
and then paying.
you'd have to sell and then pay.
But what I want to see is like the proper native Lightning support, right? So like you can take any Lightning wallet, fucking shows a QR code. You either scan the QR code, or if you have an Android phone, you just tap the phone and pay with NFC. Seems like we're very close to that, and that would be an absolute game changer.
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously merchant adoption has been a meme in Bitcoin throughout its life. That was the big meme in 2014. Roger Ver and all the early Bitcoiners thought if we just get the merchants accepting Bitcoin, like that's how we win. And like, yes, it is a way to win, but how do you do that historically? You get somebody to, the way they were doing it back in 2014 was literally getting people to download Bitcoin wallets on their phone and then having like the cashiers like learning how to create invoices and do this very drawn out process where a lot of phones and a lot of buttons and a lot of time was involved. Obviously, we've had things like BTC Pay Server and OpenNode come to market, which have done a great job of allowing people to implement Bitcoin payments into their point of sale systems. We have it on our website. It works very well. We love BTC Pay Server, but I think turning it on at Square merchants, having a merchant being able to just go into the interface of their Square portal and say, all right, I want to accept Bitcoin. You have the optionality of, all right, you just want to accept Bitcoin. We could do it for you in a custodial fashion. Here's how you spin up a wallet. Not even custodial. Maybe you can have something where you can create a private public key pair in the system yourself. Do that. Save yourself.
Well, they have their hardware wallet project that's separate, right? Which is this idea of trying to do maybe like a 2 of 3 multi-sig where Cash App Square owns one key, your mobile device has another key locally, and then you have a third key. If they fuck around with you, you could.
Yeah,
that's a hardware wallet, a very cheap hardware wallet.
Yeah, but that's even like higher on the tree. Like this is just like getting a software wallet in the POS system is like low hanging fruit. Implement that. Allow somebody to upload an XPub.
I expect like the way I would see the implementation happen is like something like OpenNode does, which is just fully custodial. Like this will probably be the MVP, the first thing, just fully custodial, and the merchant will have like a little sliding bar that they decide like if I receive Bitcoin, I want to either, keep 100% of that Bitcoin as Bitcoin in my wallet, or I want to keep 50% of it or 20%, and whatever the remainder is gets automatically converted into your local currency. That'll probably be the first implementation, right?
Yeah, I would imagine. Well, and like
Yeah.
on top of that, what would be even better, I think, is even more bullish and would actually have more of a profound impact is giving the merchants the ability to quickly convert dollar revenues into Bitcoin, because that's another problem with
Yeah.
the merchant adoption meme isn't necessarily that they're not willing to accept it, is that most of the time people are willing to spend it. And
Yeah. I
so
mean, yeah. It'd
if
be
you,
dope if you had two slider bars, right? Like you had a slider bar, like if someone pays fiat, pick how much of that automatically gets converted to Bitcoin. And then if you pay Bitcoin, pick how much of that gets converted into fiat.
yeah, that, I mean, the amount of like my parents, that's one thing. My dad, sufficiently orange pilled coffee shop, wants to automatically every month convert 10 to 15% of the cash to Bitcoin. Right now, it's a very manual process. Set up an outside exchange account, move funds from the business bank account to the exchange to buy the amount of Bitcoin. It's a very drawn out and clunky process. Imagine if just able to do it automatically at the point of sale. I think you'd see crazy amount of merchants around the country do it. Like, hey, you know what? Let's put 5% into Bitcoin, and then you just have that constant buying pressure all day, every day. Let's do it. Square product team. If you're looking for like some UX feedback, let me know. I'm here. Matt, you look like you're about to murder somebody there.
I'm just, I don't know, like all this stuff has seemed very obvious for a while, and there's just slowly and steadily just like checking all the boxes. So,
Yeah,
um, but Lightning support seems like a big deal. Um, yeah.
it worked. It worked very easily here. We'll try to do
But I think the
a
point of sale thing will be a bigger deal, and it is coming. I mean,
yeah.
they're not idiots. They
Car,
have a great UX team.
let's pull up a Lightning invoice. I'll pay from the Cash App. We'll see. We'll do a live demo
But
on
we
air.
can't deposit Lightning, right?
No, I'm just gonna have to pay an invoice.
What do you want me to go to?
Just go to tftc.io/contribute. We'll launder some money to the business.
One of the
right now.
promises I made to myself is I'm never going to KYC again.
Why'd you say that?
Cash App's the last. I'm already KYC'd at Cash App,
Yeah, yeah,
but I don't use it anymore. I like barely use it.
I use it. I use it I use my Cash Card every day. Honestly,
You don't have like just a normal credit card?
no, no. Just use cash. Let's donate. Let's donate $5.
I basically just use cash on my Amex.
You have to change. Yeah. All right. Live Cash App. Let's see how long
And I
it
try
takes
to just
pay.
not use the credit card unless I absolutely have to.
All right, it's being initiated. So that's the weird thing with the Cash App flow. Like it like checks the invoice.
Reports it to all the regulators and then pays it.
Ooh. Oh, I might not have any signal on my phone here at this studio recorder. We'll try it. It's at connection error. That's why you don't do demos live on air.
Wait, you don't. You had reception. You had enough reception to open the app, right? Do you not have any bars? Does it
Wait,
just say
no.
no reception?
I try it again. It says it's going through. Keep this up, Car. We'll see how long it takes to go through.
Should we just sit here quietly till it goes through?
We could do that. Or we could talk about Bill Miller,
To the
legendary
audio
value
freaks, it
investor.
still has not come through yet.
We're a minute and 15 seconds into the invoice being paid.
Damn, this is a pretty underwhelming demo. Yeah, the Bill Miller, man, fucking manages a 2 billion plus fund. He's rumored to be worth somewhere between like 500 million to a little over $1 billion. He came out swinging in an interview that was apparently recorded early December that 50% of his net worth is in Bitcoin and 50% of his net worth is in Amazon. pretty crazy.
Yeah, I mean that's insane. The payment failed on this end, so yeah, invoice isn't going to get paid. I mean, and he's been in since 2014. He said he's been buying since 200. So he bought a bunch.
Wentz has convinced him.
Yeah, Wentz's was the most potent orange pill in the early days. But yeah, he read from 200 to the 2017 bubble. Apparently, he sold it all. Timed the top pretty well.
No, he didn't sell it. I don't think he said he sold it, did he?
I thought I read in a story that he did that trade, wrote a massive trade from like 200 to 17 sold. Then
I thought he was just saying that he didn't buy again until
30K
until we hit 30K when it came back down.
Yeah,
I don't think he sold, but maybe.
No, I mean this is just incredible to see. I mean, expect more of this. It's pretty obvious once you come to understand the fundamentals of the Bitcoin network, everything that's going on in the mining industry, the utility it enables as a distributed system, the asymmetric bet that exists right now. Like Bitcoin is better money. People need better money. They're having an inflation tax waged on them that's getting to be immaterial costs. There's going to be more Bill Millers. We said this last year when Paul Tudor Jones came out swinging and advocating for Bitcoin pretty aggressively. Bill Miller's feeling comfortable to do the same. He's a bit bearish though. He was recommending people just put 1% of their portfolios in and to not go 50% like him, which is pretty bearish.
That's what Wentz. Well. I mean, he's bearish because he only has 50% in Bitcoin. What he was saying, what I got from the interview was he was saying that Wentz has told him and everyone else in the crowd to put 1% into Bitcoin. He did that. Bitcoin increased substantially. He became a way larger part of his portfolio because he didn't sell. Then when it fell from like 69 or 65 down to 30, he bought at 30 again, stopped at 50%. And now he's basically telling people, if you're a high net worth individual and you don't have any Bitcoin, dip your toe in at 1%. But most people who start at 1%, if they stay humble, will eventually, start to near the 100% Bitcoin portfolio allocation.
100%. If you're not 100%, you're bearish. No, take your time. Big investors, take your time.
Yeah, fuck these guys. I'd rather if they took longer. Let the little guy get in.
Yeah, we're gonna keep pushing off the ETF.
Also, we don't know if Bill Miller actually custodies his own coin. I assume he probably uses Zappo because that's Wentz's company that got sold to Coinbase.
Zappo was in the news
but week. Not your keys, not your coins, Miller.
Why was Zappo in the news this week?
They were in the news because they left New York and they're going to stop serving U.S. customers, and they got rid of their BIT license.
Yes, I thought that was a pretty boss move. They just said, "No, screw you, New York, we're out." But
they're owned by Coinbase now.
Yeah, they are, which is interesting. So I guess they have some autonomy from Coinbase, and I imagine Coinbase wouldn't want to.
Yeah, I mean, I have no idea how that works.
Yeah. We talked about Kazakhstan.
But it was interesting because Bill Miller, it wasn't just the typical digital gold spiel. He was talking about censorship resistance. He talked about Executive Order 6102 that, the government can't easily come in and seize Bitcoin and stuff. And he was talking like someone who understands the importance of self-custody. So I'm really interested if he was just being a hypocrite about it, or is just naive and ignorant and doesn't realize, or maybe he holds his own keys, and
look at you being all judgy. He could be running a full node connected to Sparrow.
He could have a team of 15, people who are handling his whole operation. I'm just, as these financial boomers start to understand the value prop of Bitcoin, we need to make sure, or we should. I think it's imperative on us to make it clear that those kind of properties of Bitcoin are only there if you use Bitcoin in a self-sovereign way, right? You can't. like there's damage being done when someone watches a Bill Miller interview and then goes and thinks that if they just like buy Bitcoin on Coinbase and keep it there, that Executive Order 6102 can't happen. Like that's like that their Bitcoin can't be seized. Like obviously it fucking can very easily.
Yeah. Not your keys, not your coins. There's a spectrum of going full Coinbase, full Zappo custody to running your own node on Tor using a hardware wallet you constructed from everyday parts that you can find in a computer, completely offline. Unchained exists. You can do collaborative custody. You can set up a multi-sig with friends and family. At least have some control of your keys. Do not just keep it on Coinbase, especially if you're rich. Sailor, when are you going to start custodying your own Bitcoin? Like you got to do that in house. Bring it in house.
He might custody his own personal stash.
I wouldn't be surprised at that.
Look at you being all judgy over there.
Man, I was channeling my inner Odell. Talked about Kazakhstan last week. Obviously, there's been an uprising there. Again, no comment on whether or not it's a Russia influenced, US CIA influenced,
Chinese influence.
I have no idea, honestly.
There's I shouldn't be laughing, it's fucked up, but there's probably influence from all the major agencies right now over there.
Yeah, there's definitely fuckery going around. I don't know what the fuckery is, but we do know that there are food and cash shortages spreading as Kazakhstan continues to throttle the internet.
I thought this article was interesting because,
they don't use a lot of
obviously
cash.
all the Bitcoin haters are like, oh, look what happens when internet gets cut in a nation. Like you can't spend Bitcoin or you can't mine Bitcoin easily. Like this is a fault against Bitcoin. But like you cut internet in a modern country and you just knock them back into the Stone Age. Like you just fucking every single aspect of society is dependent on internet nowadays. And that's not a unique situation with Bitcoin.
No, it's if the internet goes off, if they shut the internet off, the grid off, like Bitcoin's not going to help you. The dollar's not going to help you.
But the Bitcoin can still help. So if you're in a situation where only your country cuts the internet,
yes,
Bitcoin is independent of that country, right? So if you find like a way to connect to the internet at some point in the future, you're going to have access to that Bitcoin. Obviously that value should be independent of your government or whatever. In this case, like there are some ATMs that are still operating. The government has put capital controls on the cash machines as well, right? So they have full. They're squeezing their people from every fucking side, and I still think in that kind of situation Bitcoin is a massive tool for people. It's just going to be more difficult to use. Obviously, things like guns and ammo are also very useful in those kind of situations.
And soap
and food independence.
Soap, cigarettes, alcohol, bullets. Water. Apparently soaps.
Water is pretty important.
Yeah, water is very important. Hopefully it doesn't get to that point. In Kazakhstan, it's getting to that point. Hopefully it doesn't get to that point in other parts of the world. If you're in Kazakhstan and you're a freak and you're struggling through this, our hearts are with you. It's fucking, again, I can't speak to anything that's going on there on the ground. I just honestly don't know. Don't want to sound like an idiot, but I hope you guys are staying strong. It's fucked, man, when geopolitics affects the little guy. It's a thing. Like, it's all these geopolitical games over money, war, the war machine, whatever it may be. What is at the center of all this? The money printer, the global money printer that governments and central banks can't stay away from. Take that away from them, and I think they'll have a harder time doing all this bullshit that they're doing. Before we get to shout outs, I just had to say, I want to address something that's been eating away at me all week. Last RHR, I brought shame to my family, and I wanted to clear the air. I would like to sincerely apologize to Ben the Carmen for shooing him off camera last week. He's a gem in the Bitcoin community, does not deserve this kind of treatment from anyone, let alone someone who can never fully comprehend the genius that lies in his coding ability. I mean no ill will, and I hope this apology will make that clear to my family, my community, and to Ben the Carman. And seeking to make my amends known to all and forever, my wife, and I would like to announce that the next Bent Bitcoiner, our next child, will be named Ben. It is our hope that this act will bring a peaceful resolution between myself and the Council of Bens. I know I can never undo the damage done in shooing Ben the Carman, but I'll seek every opportunity possible to rebuild the bridges I single-handedly burnt down. Thanks for hearing me out, freaks. That was something I was forced to read because somebody paid for a shout-out. Obviously, somebody from the Council of Bens, it seems like. I do not apologize. I do not apologize. I will read the shout-out, but I don't apologize.
Wasn't there a last sentence there that you didn't read?
Thanks for hearing me out, freaks. That was the last one.
Oh, it didn't say now I'll continue to the shout-outs?
No, it didn't. It didn't. Did you help somebody with this?
I know I might have had a little bit of advance notice.
Next shout out. Hi, Marty and Matt. Don't get me started on how much I love your content. Yeah, I won't. I have shit coins from long ago when I was younger and dumber. I'm seeking the best way to convert them to BTC in the most non-KYC way. My idea is to use the exchange within the Atomic or Exodus wallet, as they both require no info to use. I think they use Shapeshift or Changely. I'd be glad to pay their extra fees for no KYC Bitcoin. Does this work? At the very least, it must be better than one of the big exchanges. Also, taxes on these swaps, as well as mining rewards from Compass Mining, are significant. How does one balance the need for privacy while also trying to not take chances with taxes? Is the idea to break heuristics while still paying the appropriate taxes? I don't mind paying the taxes. I just recoil from the privacy infringements. Thank you both for your massively important work. Thank you, Freak, for listening. Thank you for the shout out. Thank you for the kind words. And don't envy your position. Getting out of shitcoins into Bitcoin with the path of least resistance in terms of having to provide personal identifying information. Changely or Shapeshift, I'm pretty sure it doesn't Shapeshift KYC. And didn't they buy?
Oh no, Shapeshift removed KYC because
they're using like Uniswap.
They're like a
or
DAO
something.
now or something, right? I don't know.
Yeah. When it comes to taxes, pay your taxes. Yeah. When it comes to like mining income,
talk to an accountant.
Yeah, talk to a market as income, pay income taxes on that. I think like unless you get audited, I don't think you have to share your addresses. So if you're mining, I think you still have privacy. You just have to tell the government, hey, I made some income and I'm going to pay taxes on it. I don't even think you have to declare it as like Bitcoin denominated revenue either. I'm not a tax accountant. I'm not a lawyer.
Yeah, talk to your accountant.
Yeah, don't take advice from Uncle Marty on this stuff. That's what I understand though. Pay your taxes, freaks. Hello, Marty and Matt. I hope your 2022 is going well. I really appreciate the work you both do. To San Diego Bitcoiners, the San Diego Bitcoiners meetup has a very special event planned on Saturday, January 29th. Yours truly will be presenting Buying Bitcoin Privately with Bisq. So it could help out our last shout-out guy. Your podcast often emphasizes the importance of privacy and the evils of KYC and its surveillance discount. Just went over it a little bit. I hope to use my experience with the platform to show how easily it is to reduce personal identifying information risk and starve the centralized, rehypothecating, price manipulating honeypots that we call exchanges of income they make off of our data. Hashtag get on zero KYC, RSVP at meetup.com/SD Bitcoiners. That's meetup.com/SD Bitcoiners, or DM me. Cheers, gents. Corey San Diego at Inpharmacist at INPHARMATICIST. And then he has his message signature as always. And you can verify.
Are you going to read it?
It's http://signatures.corey with a C, corey.lol/shoutout.txt. And you can verify at keybase.io/verify.
Great. Thanks for reading that.
Hey, you're welcome.
Shout out to the San Diego Bitcoiners. I fucking love how strong like meetups are becoming. around the world. It's super powerful.
Yeah, it is. I mean, we said first episode of the year or last episode of last year, I forget which one it was, what was one of the most promising trends of 2021, and that was the proliferation of bit devs and Bitcoin meetups all over the country, all over the world. And it only seems to be getting stronger.
Also, Dispatch this week on Tuesday is focused on KYC trade-offs. I got Laser Hodl,
Did you say Sunday?
Zelko, and Stefan Livera coming on Tuesday.
Well, Tuesday. I thought you said Sunday. I was like, oh,
No, Dispatch.
Be here. You got a weird time zone because of Stefan? You're doing
No.
it? No. All right. Sweet.
I think it's 5 p.m. Eastern, 2200 UTC.
Be there, be square, freaks. Be there, be square. KYC trade-offs. What else do we have on the list? We're done shout-outs. We've got software updates. Electris version 0.9.4 has been released. Blue Wallet version 6.2.16 has been released. Mercury Wallet version 0.5.6 has been released. TDEX version 1.2.2 has been released. Foundation Passport version 1.0.8 has been released. Hexa Wallet version 2.0.67 has been released. And Samurai Wallet version 0.99.98b has been released. If you're running any of these softwares, just be aware that these updates are available to you. You don't have to rush to download any of these as there are no pressing bugs or vulnerabilities.
No, the Samurai one is.
Samurai.
If you update it to 99.98a, Whirlpool crashes sometimes, so you need to upgrade to 99.98b.
Nothing crazy. No funds at risk, right?
No.
Yeah. Just a Whirlpool at risk. Very annoying.
And I think they released a code like "sorry for the crashes" or something. I don't think that's the exact code,
but I had a great conversation with Christopher Allen and Wolf McNally. Wolf, who I was not previously aware of, but the team for Blockchain Commons. And I highly recommend you freaks go check that out. If anything, just to get back to basics on just like low level Bitcoin stuff and things that we need to be thinking about from a design perspective as we scale. Particularly, we were talking about interoperability between Lightning Network implementations earlier, but you can go deeper than that or more fundamental than that, just between Bitcoin wallet software. Things like derivation pass and having somebody download a Trezor, being able to communicate with a cold card, with a ledger, with a Blue Wallet, whatever it may be. It's not as straightforward at the moment as one would expect. And the team at Blockchain Commons, being led by Christopher Allen, is working on sort of bringing some of these standardization specs to market so that we can build these wallet softwares in parallel and have users be able to interact with each other as time goes on. It's something to think about now, because if you develop a bunch of tech debt and a bunch of wallet providers go in different directions, it could be a complete shit show in the future.
Cheers to that.
You have any thoughts on wallet standardization? Is that a weird thing? Like, is it like taboo to standardize? Because then
I have respect for Christopher, so I'm not going to. I don't know. I don't know if it needs. I think sometimes people go a little bit crazy on wallet standardization.
Why? Come on, get into it. Get into it.
It's early days, right?
Well, exactly. That's
and it's a permissionless system. You can build on top of it. Like, we should be experimenting with novel, different ways of using Bitcoin. Like, maybe it's a little bit too early to be standardizing, and maybe we should not have like a centralized standardization body in Bitcoin. Like, that is a little bit.
I agree with that.
Dangerous.
But if you get into the way I look at it, if you get into like the Gordian principles that they talk about, like, you just want to make sure that people don't lose funds. The way I view it, like, standardize, like, if you're going to have a wallet software, make sure it's able, like, especially if you're going to recover from seed, to easily find that seed and like be prepared for a specific derivation path. Like I don't see that as constrictive, is it?
I mean, it can be in certain situations, but in general, like, yeah, I mean, like, it's like there's been a lot of benefits from BIP39 standardization on like seed phrases that you can recover. If people use similar derivation paths, you can recover using that seed into other wallets and stuff like that. There's obviously benefits there. Um, I think there's just a part of like what the approach is necessarily. Um, and I think, people should be open to innovating and playing with things. Like, I don't know. I don't know if seeds are the end all be all of Bitcoin.
Really?
They might be, but they might not be.
What do you mean by
right?
that? Like, what could you say? What would you see arising outside of seeds?
Well, I mean, for starters, seed backups don't work for Lightning.
What do you mean by that? Like, you can't.
They for Lightning, you need to constantly update your state.
The state, yeah.
Which is why most of the Lightning wallets use some kind of cloud backup system. Because you have to constantly update it. Because your channel state's constantly changing.
Yeah. That makes sense.
So is everyone going to be using Lightning in the future? Or is that just a meme we say?
I don't know. What do you think? Do you think
I don't
that?
know.
Are you getting
I'm just
bearish
saying,
on
like,
Lightning here?
No. My point is just like I feel like it could be a little bit early to, like I like the idea of wallet developers playing with things and try and do novel things,
I do too. I'm not saying people should be able to do that. I'm saying there should be.
No, so I mean, Christopher, once again, a lot of respect for Christopher. Like he decided to do like a whole Twitter thread about how Moon was dangerous because it was a non-standard practice, right? Now, Moon with 2 U's is like a very novel wallet that is trying to do novel things and is like thinking outside of the box. Like, does Moon need to be standardized as well? Like, that's their prerogative. Right? Let them try and figure out novel things that interact with Lightning and on-chain.
I agree with that. Is there a trade-off, though?
Yeah, the trade-off is a lack of standardization.
No, but is there a trade-off of having like a sufficient quote-unquote standard? When I think standardization, I think like Moon Wallet. Like if I create a seed somewhere, it should be easy for me to recover on Moon Wallet and then to send to another wallet.
There's no seeds in Moon Wallet.
And I don't. Okay.
That's like one of the main complaints.
How do you back up?
You have a backup file, and you have a app generated password that encrypts that backup file. So you save the app generated password, and then you save the backup file either on the cloud or you can save it,
On a hard drive.
No, or you can save it locally. You can do like the share thing where it goes to another app. Like you can save it like Signal has its like little note to self thing that's like an encrypted, basically like little cloud storage thing. You can save it there. You can save it wherever you want. It's a PDF. You can print it, but it's encrypted. So you also need the code. And like, are funds at risk of loss because that's a non-standard thing? Sure. Yeah. In some cases. But I just think it's like we're to think that we know everything about Bitcoin and like what the best Bitcoin UX is right now is like I don't think that's the case. Like I think there's going to be a lot of interesting novel ways of doing Bitcoin, using Bitcoin, and I think options are good for users.
I do as well. And I don't think any standardization precludes options. Things can be made into standard. And I think Christopher specifically, I think his experience, particularly with writing specs for TLS, which is what SSL runs on, is very interesting because that's gotten to a point where there weren't there weren't great standards set early on, and they've gotten to a point where there's like very few developers in the world can actually maintain that because they know how everything sort of interacts with each other. So the way I took his explanation of that experience, bringing it to Bitcoin, is like, all right, how do we avoid that? Does standardization help that?
Like I said, I haven't listened to the conversation yet.
What the hell, Matt?
But I mean, look, there's a lot of standard bodies in that sphere that is just very centralized. Like we were like, who was the one?
He did mention the Mozilla thing. What's it? Web3.
Yeah.
He mentioned that. I was like, I don't know how.
Like you were going off on them, like a couple episodes ago, like 7, 8, 10 episodes ago, because they came out as anti-Bitcoin, right? Anti-proof of work.
Yeah.
Like there are real concerns of having centralized rent-seeking standardization bodies that bully the majority of the industry to do certain things and then can get easily captured. And like Bitcoin is supposed to be this beautiful permissionless system. So there is a balance there. And I don't think it's a black and white thing.
Neither do I. No, I agree with you 100%. Like I don't want I don't want like a standards body.
Like a bunch of suits like deciding.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm thinking of something like Bitcoin design guide just applied to like what options you should give users when it comes to like seed recovery and being able to spend.
Do you think every Bitcoin wallet should be backed up with a seed?
I don't know.
That's my point. Yeah. Like I don't know, but like that's.
But yeah, again, I think we're coming to it from different angles. Like I think you're thinking I'm saying this, like we need standards, so like everybody has to do it this way. I'm saying like if you have wallets that have allowed people to create private public key pairs with backup seed phrase with a certain derivation path, like for those users, they should be able to recover that seed on any wallet.
Right. I mean,
which just means being prepared for all those different derivation paths, the way I understand it, at least.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm thinking of that specific Christopher thread about Moon Wallet, where like you just attack them for being so-called non-standard.
Yeah,
with 2 U's.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. It was one thing I didn't push back on. I got buried the WC3 or whatever the hell it's called.
W3C, right?
W3C, yeah.
And like that thing too, like so like that happened, right? And like so he did that tweet thread, and I got tagged by a bunch of people because I like Moon Wallet. Like I'm a fan of Moon Wallet. I use it all the time. 2 U's. So what did I do? Like I was like, I can put you in touch with Dario Snyderman, the lead maintainer of Moon Wallet. And I was like, maybe have like a productive conversation or whatever. And that just like never really materialized. Like I created a group chat between the three of us and just, I kind of felt the vibe of it's like my way or the highway.
Oh, really?
I just didn't like that vibe.
Okay. Well, it's good to know. I did not know this information.
Did you see weirdo Robert Moon Wallet / spelled with 2 O's? It's a good troll.
It's a very good troll. No, man, I'm very interested to see this conversation evolve. The way I came at it. It's just like thinking about like something like that happened last year with like Trezor when they pushed an update that completely borked HWI that people have been working on for a while. It just creates a headache. I believe multi-sig funds were at risk at some point for certain setups.
I don't think that was because of HWI though, right? Those are two separate things.
I think the same Trezor update affected both.
I mean, I would say like there's probably a better argument to be made about hardware signing devices, whether those are hardware wallets or whatnot, because there are massive advantages that like you get a cold card and you can use it with like Sparrow, Spectre, Electrum, Bitcoin Core. Like it's dope that you can just use it with a bunch of different Blue Wallet, right? Like you can use it with a bunch of different software wallets. So there has to be more collaboration there. But I think like, you know, the next 5-6 billion people to use Bitcoin are going to be using mobile wallets.
Agreed.
And I think there is a lot of room for experimentation and, you know, novel strategies in the mobile wallet space. Like if you think we've hit pinnacle mobile wallets right now, like you have not used mobile wallets. Like we are not anywhere fucking close to it yet.
No, we will get there though. I mean, most people are going to be using Bitcoin mobile first.
Yeah,
Just like most people do everything mobile first
exactly.
in this world. So prepare. No, I'm very interested. This is an interesting conversation. I'm sure will be continued. That being said, the tools that they're building at Blockchain Commons are really cool. The seed tool, actually creating the QR code standard, the UR standard that they're creating is really cool too. It really makes PSBTs a bit easier on certain devices. So go check out the conversation. On to more bullish things. Alex Gladstein got his hands on a piece of a deck that Fidelity, or a report that Fidelity sent out, and Fidelity seems to think that there's going to be more nation-state adoption of Bitcoin. In the Fidelity report, they said, we also think there's a very high-stakes game theory at play here, whereby if Bitcoin adoption increases, the countries that secure some Bitcoin today will be better off competitively than their peers. Therefore, even if other countries do not believe in the investment thesis or adoption of Bitcoin, they will be forced to acquire some as a form of insurance. In other words, a small cost can be paid today as a hedge compared to a potentially much larger cost years in the future. We therefore wouldn't be surprised to see other sovereign nation states acquire Bitcoin in 2022. It's the long-winded way of saying the epic Goldstein tweet from a few years ago, or the only
I fucking love that tweet.
The only
it's
winning
like one
move
of my favorite tweets on Bitcoin Twitter.
The only winning move is to play. Even though I mixed up the Bitstein tweets, I was doing the Reservoir Dogs Mexican Shootout or Bitcoin Consensus. This is Bitcoin Consensus.
I like that one too.
Well,
I like that movie. That movie's a fucking classic.
I think it might be my favorite Tarantino flick, Reservoir Dogs.
It makes me always like just miss that we like missed like the great period of American diners.
Oh,
that movie.
Don't say that. We were never able to smoke in diners. Like, it'd be great to have like
just like unlimited coffee for like 50 cents, just chilling, smoking cigarettes,
eating eggs, banter.
The American diner is still pretty strong in like outside of cities, but like there was definitely like peak diner that happened before we were born.
Oh yes,
and like
yes.
I feel like that movie very very much highlights it.
The shout out to Jimmy's Diner in Williamsburg. It shut down during the COVID pandemic, but that was a good diner. I used to meet many a Bitcoiner at for breakfast. I'm a big diner guy myself.
You know who I met this week? I met Kyle from Pleb Lab.
Oh, boss.
Austin Bitcoin Club. Finally.
He made the trip to Nashville.
Yeah, great dude.
Yeah,
that was
incredible
fun.
Dude. Sitting across from Carl.
Part of the reason I'm hungover.
How many people showed up last night?
I mean, he doesn't drink, so it's
yeah.
Not
So I was
his
going to
fault.
say I
I
didn't
just
want
was
to go
having
there.
a great time with him.
Was that the largest turnout?
What?
At Nashville.
Everything prices. People like are such people are such fair weather fans. Like it was. I mean, there was like 160 people there, but it's price really. We even see that with we saw that with New York Bit Devs. Like even though it's a highly technical conversation, like price really does change whether or not people come out. But there was like I said, there was like 160 people there. It was a good crew.
Hell yeah.
Ride or dies. Proper ride or dies.
It's always good to be a ride or die. That's where you learn the most too, is in the bear market. You can actually focus on these interesting topics. Speaking of interesting topics, Rep Tom Emmer from the great state of Minnesota introduced a bill prohibiting the bank from issuing a central bank digital currency directly to individuals. And he has a long thread under this tweet that goes into something we've been describing on this
I love this
podcast for some while, which is this would be a terrible thing to happen if the Fed were to issue a CBDC and take over for commercial banks and essentially be the only way that Americans interact with the monetary system. Because
can you read the thread? Because this is like pretty crazy coming from a sitting representative. What's the, like, especially the privacy parts, like read that part.
As other countries like China develop CBDCs that fundamentally omit the benefits and protections of cash, it is more important than ever to ensure the United States' digital currency policy protects financial privacy, maintains the dollar's dominance, and cultivates innovation. CBDCs that fail to adhere to these three basic principles could enable an entity like the Federal Reserve to mobilize itself into a retail bank, collect personally identifiable information on users, and track their transactions indefinitely. Not only does the CBDC model raise single point of failure issues, leaving Americans' financial information vulnerable to attack, but it could be used as a surveillance tool that Americans should never be forced to tolerate from their own government. Requiring users to open an account at the Fed to access a United States CBDC would put the Fed on an insidious path akin to China's digital authoritarianism. Any CBDC implemented by the Fed must be open, permissionless, and private. This means that any digital dollar must be accessible to all, transact on a blockchain that is transparent to all, and maintain the privacy elements of cash. In order to maintain the dollar status as the world's reserve currency in a digital age, it is important that the United States lead with the posture that prioritizes innovation and does not aim to compete with the private sector. Simply put, we must prioritize blockchain technology with American characteristics rather than mimic China's digital authoritarianism out of fear. Representative Tom Emmer, hell of a rant, and I've got a very pleasant surprise for you. There is a blockchain technology that has American characteristics.
I love that term, American characteristics.
Stays true to the ideals this country was founded on. It's called Bitcoin, baby. It's been around since January 3rd, 2009.
Love it. That's pretty crazy. Isn't that pretty crazy coming from a congressman?
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. Tom Emmer's been like a good advocate too. It's good to see this coming out of Minnesota as well. Somebody in the comments said flyover country. I don't like the term flyover country.
It's drive-through country.
Yes, these are good people doing good things in the middle of the country, and yeah, I mean it's heating up. Like this is actually incredible. Like having this on the floor, the Fed cannot create a CBDC. We do not want to compete with China because that's what the CBDC will lead to if it's done in this fashion. You'll have complete surveillance. You'll have complete control over money. And that is not true to the American characteristics that we would like to uphold. And so like drawing that line in the sand with this bill is massive. Props to Rep. Tom Emmer. Because this is true. We either get the Chinese social credit surveillance system exported here, or we're able to break free. And it's interesting because you have this posturing like we're going to have a U.S. dollar digital currency, but it can't be issued by the Feds. It's got to be free. It's got to be open. It's got to be permissionless. Like, what if it does become something like a synthetic contract for difference, a CFD, on the Lightning Network? Like, what if that's the only one we allow if we pass this bill, which I doubt it gets passed? Do you think it has any chance of making it?
No, I mean, it has zero chance probably, but it's still an important precedent, I think. Yeah. Even if it has no legal bearing, I mean, it's all written there, right?
Yes.
The narratives are shifting and the conversation is happening. That's important.
I mean, you have the focus on privacy and the calling out a single point of failure.
And the privacy aspect was pretty big.
It's pretty big, but I think he's
don't talk about financial privacy,
No, but he's definitely thinking like taking a cypherpunk adversarial approach to this digital monetary system, talking about like single points of failure. Like, when was that a common saying, single points of failure, outside of like military talk, before people started talking about like these distributed systems?
Yeah, I mean, I mean, I definitely haven't heard any congressmen talk about anything close to that.
No. They are trading a lot, though. You see those, they're
They're killing it.
crushing
They're
it.
just amazing traders. It has nothing to do with inside information whatsoever.
Speaking of countries spying and being despotic,
I think that's one thing I could probably. I don't know if I. The thing is, like this whole thing, like in a post-Bitcoin world, you can't stop politicians from trading. So the point is moot. If the idea is that, like, I saw some people on my feed like advocating for politicians not to be allowed to trade, like that they need like a basically like a blind trust or something, where they have like a money manager that is managing their money for them that they don't have any control over. Um, but to me, that like in a post Bitcoin world, like if we actually have censorship resistance, free financial markets, like all is fair. Like there's no way you can stop that kind of trading.
no. I mean, you just have to create better incentives. Like, how does that trading happen? Right, like you're at the back end of the bad incentive network is insiders. The front end is insiders in the form of lobbyists are able to pay for access to the proximity of the politicians, who they can then hand basically lobbyists written laws to get pushed into to law. The money printer allows that to happen, and bribing allows that to happen, and the incentives of getting more cheap debt incentivize that to happen, and then that's happening, and then the politician is just piggybacking onto that bad incentive structure and saying, "Hey, I know what's going to happen, so I'm going to put some chips on Pfizer here."
Yeah.
Does Bitcoin fix this? Maybe. We'll see.
No,
We'll
that's
see.
what I'm saying. Bitcoin doesn't fix that, right?
No, I mean, it
If
doesn't.
anything, Bitcoin cements inside. Like, does insider trading exist in a free market?
Yeah, I mean,
No, it's just the market pricing things.
yeah.
Like, insider trading is a term that's created by regulators,
Yeah, I mean, insider trading.
right?
What is it really? It's
It's pricing in events in the future. That's
exactly.
what it
It's
is.
the efficient market hypothesis at play. If you believe in the efficient market hypothesis, insider trading's necessary as the most efficient market. When people who know the information make a move immediately. Yeah, again, I could fix the incentives. The incentives are all fucked that lead to insider trading, I would argue. Get back to a world where cash flows and actually creating valuable, useful products is more important than just pumping the price of your stock. So
I mean, I guess like you have like all these assets that are like basically just monetized significantly because the money's broken. So
yeah,
if most people are just holding their wealth in Bitcoin long term because they expect it, it to appreciate in purchasing power, then all of a sudden you start to see real estate and stocks get demonetized to a degree, and then in that situation, we're kind of all just aligned on pumping the price of Bitcoin.
yes, we're all insider trading and buying.
But I don't know if Bitcoin fixes.
It won't. It won't fix shitty
Like, it
people.
doesn't fix
People
corrupt politicians.
doesn't fit. Yeah, it doesn't fix corrupt politicians. But again, you can fix the incentives that enable these politicians to be more corrupt than they otherwise would, had the framework of operation been changed via the inability to access cheap debt that is enabled by money printing. Then from there, again, externalities, ripple effects, blah 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 blah. But speaking, we'll see if that comes to fruition in the future. I do have an inclination that it certainly helps again, but it's not going to solve the problem. There's
What do you think about Bitcoin Goblin's question? Do monopolies exist in a, he did quotes, free market?
Man, they certainly form. Yeah, depends.
Yeah, obviously. I mean,
Yeah.
there will be monopolies in a free market. I think that's fine. That is, that is capitalism. That is competition. If someone can break that monopoly, then by offering a better product or being more efficient, then they will break that monopoly and they'll have a massive incentive to do so. My bigger issue is uh, basically state sanctioned monopolies where you don't have a free market and the state is basically granting monopoly powers to different companies or actors, which I think is more of the case when you see things that closely resemble monopolies like Kroger in America right now.
Yeah, well, we've talked about this in recent weeks, like particularly in relation to like meat processing. It's not a monopoly in this; it's an oligopoly where the government,
Right.
via strict regulation over how food is handled, has essentially allowed this oligopoly to develop, where very few, less than 5 companies control something like 90% of the meat in the country.
Yeah, that's all government done.
Yeah, similar.
Like if it was a proper free market, there'd be more competition there.
Yes,
And like we have some guys in the comments saying like monopolies mean zero competition at the definition, like it's just literally one player. Obviously, we're talking about the shades of gray in between.
yes. I mean, Standard Oil is. I mean, they were essentially a monopoly, but they had to get broken up into a bunch of oil and gas companies. But there were competitors outside of them as well. Again, you get into the nitty gritty of economic theory and what is described in the textbook. But as Matt described, there's often gray areas in the real world that don't allow that perfect theoretical situation to play out in the wild. Human nature, man, it's one funny thing. Always creating these variables that you can never predict because you can't model the human mind. While we're on corruption, Amnesty International is out verifying that the government of El Salvador is using Pegasus spyware against journalists, which isn't a good look. Matt Carr and
the name of the Pegasus spyware app that they installed was called Chiva. Well, no, I'm kidding.
Hey, well, don't be surprised if it is.
This is not great.
Yeah.
They're spying on journalists. They're hacking their phones. There's 2 organizations here that verified this.
Yeah, the Access Now and the Citizen Lab.
The other link, if you click the joint investigation car, this one is more in depth. But I mean, I think Bitcoiners should be rightfully upset about this. I think Salvadorans should obviously be concerned, but in places where journalists are attacked, that is not usually a good sign. Places where you don't have free press historically have resulted in repression by the government.
Yeah, I mean, we covered the Hong Kong protests pretty heavily in late 2019 leading into 2020. People seem to have forgotten about that, particularly after the whole COVID thing that conveniently got brushed under the rug. But one of the main strategies they used to eventually subdue the spirit of the Hong Kongers was to defeat the press. I mean, they've pretty systematically dismantled freedom of the press in Hong Kong over the last 3 years. And now China's just got full reign over Hong Kong. And so it's obviously a tactic used by authoritarian regimes. And so if it's happening in El Salvador, yes, it's great that El Salvador and Bukele are very vocal and loud advocates of Bitcoin. But Matt Carr and I were discussing before we hit record about this topic, particularly like you can't hold anybody who advocates for Bitcoin on a pedestal, ourselves included.
The hero worship from the Bitcoin community is getting a little bit out of hand here. Bitcoin will be fine. I'll be fine. Whatever. Just my 2 sats. it's and I mean, unless we've never talked about it on the show, but like Bukele like he took a bunch of money from China for their new soccer stadium, I think a new library too. Um, so he's taking Chinese money, he's holding the country's keys in America, and he's spying on, like, kicked out a bunch of judges, packed the court, spying on journalists.
Beware. Beware, freaks. Because, I mean, that's, again, I worry about in the mining is a good transition to the mining stuff, too. Like, people just setting up for narrative failure in the future. Again, who's to say how President Bukele's his tenure as president ends? Maybe it's a good note. Maybe human rights, at the end of the day, wind up increasing. This report for Amnesty International seems to prove a data point in the other direction. We won't know till we know. But again, don't hold these people up on a pedestal. Don't create these narratives like, look at this president in this country adopting Bitcoin. It's great. I think it's a data point. Should be acknowledged and discussed, but don't bet the whole house on this being like the picture of Bitcoin. It's certainly part of the story and everything that's going on, but despotic regimes will use Bitcoin to their advantage as well. We've seen it in Venezuela very visibly. They've confiscated mining equipment, plugged it in for themselves, mined for themselves, trying to scam people out of their Bitcoin for passports, all that stuff. So Bitcoin is a money for enemies. Anybody can use it. Anybody can leverage into it. Just because somebody doesn't mean you need to worship them. Hero worship, as Matt describes it. Yeah, hero worship. I think it will end up disappointing in the long run, and similar in the Bitcoin mining industry. Hero worshiping like green, quote unquote, renewable energy, and saying that Bitcoin is going to incentivize and create cheaper energy generation, which I think is true to a certain extent. But I think the lengths to which the mining industry, particularly in North America, is trying to stretch their necks to say, no, it's 100% renewable is just a bad strategy and only setting up for a narrative failure in the future when that turns out not to be true. And everybody goes to the Bitcoin mining industry, you told us it was going to be 100% renewable. And it's like, well, it's not. And so therefore Bitcoin's a failure. You guys are liars. Like, just don't set ourselves up for failure in that way. Just own it. Bitcoin uses a lot of energy. Using energy isn't bad. It's a good thing. It makes us more energy efficient. And it can help lead to an overproduction of necessary electricity for the grid, which could lead to cheaper electricity. But there will be more energy used. And that is something that the world has to come to grips with. It's okay. Bitcoin uses a lot of energy. It's going to use more in the process. It's going to make us more energy efficient. It's going to usher in a sound monetary system. And we think that that'll be a very, very much so a net benefit for the world. But whether it comes to presidents or the energy, the source of the energy that you're using for your mining, don't set up bad narratives to try to appease people. And so, yeah, this is, again, Bitcoin mining.
This is why I said earlier that we can't say the Fed will never hike rates.
Why do you say that?
Because, like, they're going to do it a little bit, right?
Yeah.
And people are like, oh, your narrative failed.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this is, I mean, obviously Bitcoin mining is going to be thrust into the conversation over the next 2 weeks in the U.S. particularly. Elizabeth Warren is calling a subcommittee particularly about the Bitcoin mining industry and its energy consumption. She's painting it to be this massive polluter that's leading to the oceans being boiled and we're destroying the world because the Bitcoin mining industry is using so much energy. It's, I believe, inefficient and wasteful is the words and the descriptors that this committee is going to be running with. Nothing could be further from the truth. As you can see from this chart, the Bitcoin hash rate, heat rate over
Originally, I
time.
thought the title of that chart was Bitcoin hash rate, hash rate.
Bitcoin hash rate heat rate, which is the joules, the joules per terahash, the amount of heat needed to create a terahash via Bitcoin ASICs has gone down significantly over time. In 2010, it was 13,333.33 joules terahash. In 2020, 2 years ago, that dropped down to 36.75%. So the amount of heat necessary to produce a terahash has fallen significantly over time, which basically what that means is that the actual process of producing hashes that could potentially allow you to mine a Bitcoin block have gotten significantly more efficient with the heat that they're using. So Bitcoin mining has only gotten more efficient over time as it's consumed more energy. And then again, the energy it is consuming, very strong economic incentives in Bitcoin. It's going to be cheap energy, which is usually stranded or wasted or does not have access to greater grid connectivity yet. And this is a good thing. People are going to hit the hill and talk with congressmen and try to like point to renewable this, renewable that, green this, green that. And I just say we own it. Bitcoin uses a lot of energy. It's going to use more in the process. Hopefully we can bring more cheap and abundant energy to the rest of the world. Beware though. Bitcoiners are going to be dragged in front of the hill in the next 2 weeks to explain themselves to Elizabeth Warren. Why do you use so much energy? What would your response be? You're on the hill. Elizabeth Warren screaming in your face.
Bitcoin deniers hate the environment.
You just stop there.
Yeah, just walk out. you like take your Kroger brand pineapple juice. You just like drop it on the floor.
And you leave the plastic bag behind too. You don't even recycle. Last point I had for this rip in the same vein. I just want to pull up this Alex Epstein thread on ESG. We're going to link to this in the show notes, but he does a very thorough dismantling of the ESG narrative and highlights. I think we should be leaning into this. Like divesting from fossil fuels is immoral. The world needs more energy. Like the energy demand is only going to be increasing from here. Like all this divestment from natural gas, nuclear, oil specifically is actually a detriment to humanity. It's increasing electricity prices and it's hurting the poor the most. We've been saying this ad nauseum at this podcast for quite some time now, but I think Alex Epstein did a very good, much more eloquent job of explaining the ills of ESG in a Substack post that he wrote that he also turned into a Twitter thread. So we're going to link to that. Go check it out. These people are using fear spells, and they're making humanity worse off. And we should start leaning into this instead of trying to hide behind like renewable energy. Like that's what we're going to find as Bitcoiners. Like the whole renewable energy meme, it's going to die because it's undeniable that this stuff is unreliable, not scalable, and making people worse off, and reducing the quality of life for people who are subjected to regressing to less dense energy sources. Like be better than the narrative of the day. Go to where the puck's going, and the puck is going to. It is blatantly obvious that ESG and environmental LARPing is doing more harm than good. So let's just beat them there, own it, and tell them, hey, we're going to be hashing. Thank you for.
Do you think there's like a middle ground?
What do you mean?
Like, do you think like no? I won't use the term renewable because I can agree with you that there's some logical issues with the term. It's more of a narrative term, but you don't think there's use for solar or wind energy? Or...
I do. I just think it's more at an individual scale. Like what they're
it's
trying
just
to
more expensive than people make it seem, but it exists as an option for people.
Yes, for individuals. I do not think wind and solar should even join the conversation when it comes to creating base loads of energy for grids. Like that's where the ESG, the Build Back Better, the Green New Deal is trying to transition base load energy, which is like this, just the base amount of energy needed to supply energy and electricity to residential grids that we're using right now. Like this, the grid that is providing the electricity, that is powering are set up here today, I don't think should be backed by wind and solar because, again, they're unreliable,
Right.
intermittent sources. I do think, I do think there is a mix that could make sense in certain areas where, yes, I'm not saying like no wind and
I don't know,
solar
like,
allowed, but it's like the conversation where they're trying to force it is wind and solar and hydro are the only base loads that we're allowed to use, and that's just very
well,
dangerous.
I mean, so my thought is like, so I guess solar specifically, right? Because uh, solar specifically is interesting to me because uh, usually if we're talking about nuclear or we're talking about wind or we're talking about hydro, this is like kind of things that like either a large corporation or a state sanctioned large corporation or the state itself kind of needs to develop an infrastructure wise, right? But is there not like a individual sovereignty aspect of solar or like diesel generators or I guess nat gas wells if you live in a place, but like so what I was so what brings this conversation about is so Dredd was posting he had an M30S What's Miner in Jamaica that he had plugged into a dryer socket because it was 220. And he said this single rig makes more money than the average Jamaican makes on a daily basis. And then someone was like, yeah, but you're in Kingston and you're paying 50 cents kilowatt hour, which is, if you don't know energy, if to the freaks that don't know energy prices, that's like fucking insanely expensive compared to America.
Yeah.
Now, that Jamaican who lives in Kingston, like they can't set up nuclear energy, they can't use nat gas, they can't do hydro or wind or any other kind of power situation. But they could source solar panels. And like, is it going to be like the best, most reliable energy source? Like, no, but there's like an individual sovereignty aspect to it, right? That they can just buy the solar panels, deploy them, and they don't have to ask permission from anybody.
Yeah, no, I'm completely fine with that. I think that makes sense, and people should do that if they can. If you're desperate, like if you desperately need to.
Like, if your infrastructure is failing you, is there not a sovereignty argument to solar?
Yeah,
Yeah.
there definitely is. But again, when it comes to like grid, we're not talking like sovereign.
Right. No, yeah,
Like,
that's
let's
completely.
make sure the lights are on in my house for me, like with my off-grid setup here. But like, trying like what these people are trying to do, with ESG and these environmentalist movements, trying to get us off natural gas, nuclear, oil, and coal.
Right.
Like
And I'm not saying like the solar is necessarily more environmentally friendly or something. I'm just saying like from a purely individual sovereignty point of view, there's an argument there
yeah,
for solar specifically.
yeah. I would prefer natural gas well. Like I would look for land.
Yeah, but I mean, there's just no
Natural.
natural gas wells in Kingston, Jamaica.
No, not Kingston, Jamaica. Yeah, you'd probably be better off with wind or solar there, or maybe even hydro to find a waterfall.
Yeah, I mean,
Alternative.
hydro's harder to do on a small scale, but you can do it on a small scale.
Yeah, whale oil for the win. Yeah, just go get that whale fat, put it in a.
Go kill a whale, freaks.
That was how we got most of our lamp oil for quite a while. We were killing
and soap.
whales. And soap and perfume, whale fat. If you find some whale fat on the beach, I think it's still the key ingredient in perfume. It's much more valuable than gold, apparently. We don't need more volcanoes. Yeah, it's the other thing too, like geothermal, like this stuff too. Like go poke a hole in
Not available in Kingston, Jamaica.
No. Well, I'm just thinking generally.
Well, that's the thing about mining, right? With mining, the whole cool part about Bitcoin mining is that, like, it doesn't have to be where, like, you
Geography
consume
agnostic.
energy.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, like, when we're talking about, like, our lives, and we're talking about, like, trying to be more sovereign and more independent,
Yeah.
I feel like Marty Bent gives solar a little bit too much shit when there's some massive sovereignty aspects there.
Yes, and I would agree I can come off that way, but again, I have to stress that I have no beef with wind or solar. Like in and of themselves, even though I do think they're marketed very disingenuously. I'm against baseload electricity on grids being provided by unreliable energy sources like wind and solar. Like, these are nuanced conversations. Like, yeah, you can have, I don't care if you have a fucking solar panel or a wind turbine in your backyard. Like, just don't try to force a fucking city to use that as their only source of electricity, because it's going to lead to rolling blackouts.
And we should just have little mini nuke reactors in every house.
That's the other thing too. That I think I saw a stat this week that since 1971, funnily enough, when there was a nuclear regulatory body put in place, not one new reactor has been approved or something like that.
I mean, I used to be, when I was growing up, I was like a big, like I loved Popular Mechanics and Popular Science magazines and stuff. And like, if you read the ones from like the late 60s, early 70s and stuff, they were expecting like a reactor in every household.
I hope we get back to thinking that way.
But like, that's a perfect example, right? I mean, first of all, that might happen, but like flying cars, stuff like that. Like when people try, I think it's important that we're all humble. I mean, just going back to like our earlier standardization conversation about Bitcoin, like that we're all humble enough to realize like we can't really fathom how Bitcoin will be used in 10 years. If you asked me in like 2014, to envision some of the things in Bitcoin today, I had no fucking idea. If you asked me like 3 years ago, some of this shit I couldn't have fathomed. And that's as someone who's like obsessed with it and paying attention all the time, constantly thinking about that shit, still caught off guard. So there's a lot of things that we just can't even
fathom.
Yeah, I said fathom like 3 times, so I was looking for a synonym, but yeah.
We literally can't fathom. That, like, and I hope I want to make this clear. Like, I'm not calling for like a standards board or anything like that. I'm thinking, again, what you're describing is like leaving the option for creative human thought and innovation to come to Bitcoin, which I completely agree. Like, I don't want to pigeonhole to anything. Where I'm coming from is like, all right, we do know that people have used Bitcoin in a certain way up to this point in terms of creating private public key pairs and with certain derivation paths. Like, just make sure the man in the coma is able to wake up one day and recover without having a heart attack. I think there's a balance.
The poor guy gets out of a coma and then he has a heart attack.
Hey, you can come out of coma. Like, damn, I was forced to hodl for 15 years.
That poor dude. The price was just the price appreciated so much. The purchasing power appreciated so much. He had a heart attack.
Yeah. The man in the coma. He's always getting the shit out of the stick, man. You got people changing protocols around him. His girlfriend's probably cheating on him. I feel free, man in the coma. Count Bitcoin's famous.
Cheers to you, Count Bitcoin.
What do we got to riff on here? Anything? I'm thinking.
Bitcoin 2022 ticket prices go up at the end of the week.
January 14th. Use code TFTC.
Chill it when that happens.
That's tomorrow.
What is the code? The code's TFTC?
Yeah, you'll get 10% off.
So if you use code TFTC, you get 10% off and we get 10% VIG, right?
Yes.
If you use code open source, you just get the full 20% off and we don't get anything. So you have a choice. You can either support us or support yourself. And do not share the code open source on Twitter. Otherwise, they're going to remove it from me. And we don't get any cut from that. I'm pretty excited about the whole BitDevs type situation we're doing on the first day, the industry day. It's going to be very good. Very technical. We're not going to understand anything like it should be.
That's the way to do it. I think we might have some breaking news here.
What?
It's not breaking news. It happened as we're recording.
Breaking. Dun, dun, dun.
I'll put this in our group chat car. You can pull this up. So it seems like in October, Jack Dorsey tweeted, Square is considering building a Bitcoin mining system based on custom silicon and open source for individuals and businesses worldwide. If we do this, we'd follow our hardware wallet model, build and open, and in collaboration with the community. First, some thoughts and questions was the tweet that Jack sent out in October that was quote tweeted a couple of hours ago by Thomas Templeton, who said in October, we announced that we're considering building a Bitcoin mining system out in the open and alongside the community, and we've decided we're doing it. We thought we'd share some more details on how our initial discussions are going and where we're headed next. We want to make mining more distributed and efficient in every way, from buying to set up to maintenance to mining. We're interested because mining goes far beyond creating new Bitcoin. We see it as a long-term need for a future that's fully decentralized and permissionless. This is a long thread.
Why don't you give us the TLDR?
Well, I was learning along with you guys. So it looks like they're...
Isn't this like why we have a producer? Like, Car, read through it and tell us what the TLDR is.
Interested in performance and open source and our own elegant system integration ideas. Yeah, I guess it's just the idea phase. They want to fine tune for availability, reliability, performance of machines, I guess. So we want to create the cheapest machines. It'll last the longest. It'll be reliable.
Breaking. Bitcoin mining manufacturer wants to make cheap, efficient machines.
Well, breaking seems like Square's mining initiative is moving forward.
Yeah, I guess that's
more
positive.
It's more than an idea, which we could use. We could use more competitors in the Bitcoin ASIC landscape specifically.
I will say two things, and I've said it similarly in the past when we talked about it on both Rabbit Hole Recap and when Steve Lee came on and Dispatch and we discussed it. First of all, I would love to see more like retail focused types of rigs, right? So like the new generation of rigs are basically designed for warehouses. They're like industrial appliances. There's a world, I think, that you can have a very efficient, the same type of efficiency for the rigs that are just, lower power, that are more retail focused, that are designed, with good firmware that you can just put them in your house, decide how much heat you want coming out, how much sound you want coming out, stuff like that. And that's kind of, to me, that's like the step before we start to see them, like every water heater in America has a Bitcoin miner in them. And then the second thing is, their goal is to build it out in the open, which is, very respectable. And this idea of like an open source ASIC manufacturing is very interesting and intriguing and hopeful, and I'm optimistic. It's a great thing to see, but at the same time, we have literally witnessed the exact opposite from the mining manufacturers that have dominated the space, which is very proprietary, closed development cycle, try and keep everything tight-lipped so that you don't really know when the efficiency gains are going to happen. That's their competitive advantage. So it should be interesting to see a big player like Block, formerly Square, come in and try and do this in an open way. And whether or not that'll be successful or not is, I would say, still up in the air.
Agreed. You'd have to. That's the whole meme. ASIC commodification is the industry getting to a point where we're close to that, at which point open source hardware may make more sense because there's just such a lack of design space from which to innovate at the silicon level. Who knows? Like we described. Sorry, I just got a text from my wife. Just all like mad face. I don't know what's going on.
Oh shit!
I don't think she's mad at me. I hope not.
That's what they always say right before they realize that she actually is mad at you.
Yeah, back to the ASIC conversation. The ASICs are not easy to make. They're expensive to make. If you make mistakes, they're expensive mistakes. 21Co, like that is one of my favorite, like fucked up an ASIC run. Like their heat sinks just weren't big enough, and literally every chip that they invested a shit ton of money in burnt up.
Literally the majority of people and companies that have tried to build ASICs have failed miserably.
Yes.
It's been a game of just absolute
ruthlessness,
slaughter. Yeah. Butterfly Labs.
Even like the bigger players can't produce like great ones like Canon and Minerva.
And then what was the Blockstream one?
Oh yeah, whatever happened to that?
Dragon
Mint. Oh, Dragon Mint. But didn't they buy another ASIC manufacturer or something recently?
I don't know. Most people and organizations that have attempted to create ASICs have failed miserably.
Yes.
This has been very expensive.
Very expensive mistake.
Oh yeah, someone brought up the one that Pomp was shilling and invested in CoinMine. That I would say is a little bit different angle because that was for retail, and the idea was you would mine shitcoins with it, and then because there was a GPU, and then you could auto dump it for Bitcoin. And it was a little bit different because they made a very strong profit on each machine they sold. They just were not worth it. They were just very overpriced and not profitable. Yes,
Yeah.
Spondoolies. Fucking crazy. There's so many.
Yeah.
ASIC Miner. ASIC Miner was a company. It was tradable on Havelock.
Yeah, I mean, there's rumors that there's actually people in this city in Austin working on ASICs. The Houston Bitcoin meetup a couple months ago, Chad from Windstone was teasing that. So we'll see. I'm highly skeptical. This is the first time anybody's trying to do it in an open source, out in the open way. I'm very interested to see if that leads to any innovation, because maybe that's what the market needs, is just literally opening up the design space in a visible fashion so that people can see, outsiders can maybe see something, oh, maybe you should tweak this.
I mean, look, the nice thing about Block in general, formerly Square, in terms of Cash App, in terms of Spiral, in terms of TBD, in terms of this initiative, in terms of their hard wallet initiative, is they have a shit ton of money. They're well capitalized. They have very easy access to financial markets. They seem to have leadership, including Dorsey and the Bitcoin team underneath him, that are very ideologically motivated. And they're in a unique situation where, like, they can burn a shit ton of cash. They can burn a shit ton of cash and try their best. And if it fails, the company will still be massively successful. They'll still be the number one finance app in the App Store. They'll still be the number one point of sale terminal in the country. That kind of situation is a very unique situation, and I'm very grateful that they're using it for the betterment of this mission, which is Bitcoin.
Yeah. And BTC Pens, funny you ask. I wonder if they're sponsoring the pod. Actually, they happen to be.
Honestly, if you're a freak and you don't know that they're sponsored the pod at this point, like, not gonna make it.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, like they have the cash to burn. I think if anything, that's the interesting thing. Like if they fail, but the progress, if they do make progress, by doing it in an open source fashion, maybe somebody could pick up the baton there even and run with it to create better ASICs, which would be a net benefit for Bitcoin. Yeah. So I mean, just looking at the actions of what's going on at Block, whether it be at Cash App, TBDEX, whatever it may be, the Bitcoin Legal Fund now, like it seems like Jack Dorsey and team are all in on Bitcoin, which is a great thing to see. What else do we got?
I don't know, Marty. Have we been going for 2 hours and 15 minutes now?
No.
2 hours 18.
2 hours 18 minutes. Oh.
2 hours 18 minutes.
I'll keep saying, like, I think the COVID narrative's unraveling. Everybody's getting it. That's good. The line down the street from me to get testing is annoying. People are definitely in a mass psychosis. They're having to sit in their cars for hours to get tested. The OSHA mandates just got shot down, which is a great thing. I think sanity may be returning to the world, but you're talking to an idiot who called top in the clown world in the summer. So it seems like things are turning.
Yeah, well, we still haven't hit the top. Move to a free state, ignore the noise, love your fellow freaks, stay humble, stack sats.
Matt is just like ready to leave. He doesn't want to hang out. 2 minutes, 2 hours and 15 minutes in.
2 hours and 18 minutes in.
18 minutes in. You're just sick of me already, Matt. Jesus. I'm kidding.
I need to eat some food.
I do have to eat as well. Freaks, thank you for joining. Thank you for joining the live chat. If you're joining live, if you're listening at home, We really appreciate it. If you're listening via podcasting 2.0 compatible app, thank you for the value that you're providing us. We love it. Thank you for the shout outs, even to the person who tried to make me lie. I'm not apologizing for shooing Ben Carmen.
That was fucked up that you shooed Ben.
If he came back in the room, I'd shoo him again.
The Bens can go fuck themselves, but that shoe was only that's something a Neil would do.
No, Marty's act on their own plane. We could shoo. Neil shoo, Ben shoo.
Like an older brother shooing a younger brother.
Yeah, I mean, it was just like, Ben, you're just sitting in the shot for too. He didn't bring the chutzpah that we needed on air.
One of the freaks should clip out the shoe.
Post
on Twitter.
Our boy Paul Miller already did.
Did he really?
Yeah, he's a good friend of Ben too, and he said, "I'm going to start using this because Ben is a very annoying person, and like, it gets to a point where people want to be polite and like don't want to like tell him you just shoot. You just go.
You watch your mouth. Don't talk about Ben that way. Where did Paul post it?
On his Twitter.
Oh, I got to check it out.
Car will pull it up. We're gonna pull it up before we leave.
I was chilling with Paul yesterday too. I'm gonna be chilling with Paul today.
Yeah, see?
There it is. That's so fucked up.
Shoegate. No, yeah, shoe.
Freaks, go retweet Shoegate.
Or Ben, come in. We'll make another one. I dare you to. I dare you to, Ben.
He's over there right now.
He's in this building still. We're gonna wrap up though. Ben's not gonna make it in time to get shooed away. Love all you freaks. Enjoy your life. Peace and love.
Love you, Marty. Love your car. Love your freaks.
Love you.